always the difficulty, I think, with these exercises is how do you translate commitments into real action on the ground?
After waiting for so long to be king, his well-hidden secret could destroy the British monarchy forever. Deep inside Buckingham Palace is a truth so explosive it makes every other royal scandal look like child's play. For decades, there have been rumors about a hidden son, and now, with very strong claims, the forgotten son insists he must be acknowledged. Is this forgotten heir the next in line to be king? What happens when bloodlines break and crowns crumble? Join us as King Charles opens up about the son he kept hidden, a son erased from history. What if everything you thought you knew about the royal family was built on a carefully constructed lie? The truth is, King Charles has been hiding more than just his past affairs. Deep within the shadows of royal protocol, there's a story that palace insiders have whispered about for decades. A story about a child who was never supposed to exist. The allegations are staggering. During one of Charles's official duties abroad, far from the watchful eyes of the British press, something happened that would haunt the royal family for generations. A woman, not from noble blood, not from prestigious circles, caught the future king's attention. What followed was a brief encounter that would create the monarchy's most dangerous secret. When she discovered she was pregnant, everything changed overnight. Charles allegedly made her a chilling promise: take the pregnancy far away from the palace, never speak of what happened, never reveal who the father was. The woman, terrified and alone, had no choice but to disappear into silence. But the cover-up was only beginning. When whispers of the pregnancy eventually reached Queen Elizabeth, her response was ice-cold. Palace insiders claim she laughed dismissively and ordered that the matter never be discussed again. The Queen's message was crystal clear. This child would not exist in their world. What happened next reveals the true power of royal influence. Non-disclosure agreements appeared out of nowhere. Financial settlements were quietly arranged. Royal staff who knew too much began disappearing from their positions, either retiring early or being transferred to distant posts where they could cause no trouble. The child's very existence was systematically erased. No birth certificates were tying him to the royal family. No photographs, no hospital records, christening documents, or press announcements. Nothing that could trace his origins back to the palace. It was as if the birth had never happened. The boy was quietly delivered into the world and just as quickly removed from it, at least from the version of it that held crowns and thrones. He was adopted under a false name, his identity wiped clean, and sent to live a life thousands of miles away from Britain. A life built on lies, carefully constructed to hide the truth. And it worked. His royal bloodline was buried so deep beneath layers of secrecy, legal manipulation, and time that not even he would know who he truly was. Not as a child, not as a teenager, not even as a young man. For decades, he would live unaware that his veins carried the legacy of kings, and that his very existence could one day change everything. Behind closed doors, lawyers worked overtime to ensure complete silence. Journalists who got too close to the story found their investigations suddenly shut down. Palace officials who asked questions were quietly removed from their roles. The royal machine of secrecy operated with ruthless efficiency. Few people know that this alleged son now lives as an ordinary man, completely unaware that he might be the rightful heir to the British throne. He has a job, a family, a normal life, all built on a foundation of lies carefully constructed by the most powerful family in Britain. The most chilling part is that if this child truly exists, he would technically be the firstborn son of King Charles. In royal succession, that changes everything. But this wouldn't be the first time the royal family has buried devastating truths. What if Charles learned these tactics from decades of royal scandal management? A pattern of deception. The British monarchy has perfected the art of survival through crisis, and every scandal has taught them new lessons in damage control. The truth is, the royal family has been managing explosive secrets for nearly a century, each crisis teaching them how to bury the next one even deeper. It started with Edward IX in 1936, when he abdicated the throne to marry American divorcee Wallis Simpson. The the palace learned a crucial lesson. Public opinion could force their hand. The establishment watched in horror as centuries of tradition crumbled for one man's desires. Behind closed doors, they vowed it would never happen again. The royal machine shifted into high gear. Advisors, courtiers, and spin doctors began crafting new strategies. Every move was calculated, every word rehearsed. The goal was simple: control the narrative, shape public perception, and protect the crown at all costs. The media was no longer just a nuisance. It was a battlefield. Stories were leaked, headlines managed, and loyal journalists rewarded. Whispers were buried, and scandals quietly swept aside. Silence became their sharpest weapon because in silence there were no slip-ups, no confessions, and no truths to unravel. But nothing in their arsenal could prepare them for what came next. Princess Diana was unlike anyone they had ever dealt with. She didn't follow the script, she didn't stay quiet, and she didn't play the game their way. Where they used silence, she used her voice. Where they spun stories, she told the truth. And in doing so, she cracked open a world the royal family had spent generations trying to keep sealed shut. In 1995, her BBC interview sent shockwaves around the world. With quiet determination, she looked directly into the camera and revealed the truth about her marriage. She said there were 3 of them in the marriage, referring to Charles, herself, and Camilla. The fairy tale was officially dead. Few people realized at the time how this single interview rewrote the playbook for royal crisis management. Diana had bypassed every palace protocol, every media handler, every carefully constructed barrier. She spoke directly to the people, and they believed her. The palace learned they could no longer control the narrative through traditional channels. They needed new methods, more subtle, more sophisticated. Then came Charles's most humiliating moment. In 1993, a private phone conversation between Charles and Camilla was leaked to the press. The intimate recording, dubbed Tampon Gate, revealed embarrassingly personal details that stripped away every ounce of royal dignity. The public was outraged. Charles wasn't just unfaithful, he was crude, desperate, and utterly human in the worst possible way. His reputation plummeted to depths the monarchy had never seen. Behind closed doors, damage control went into overdrive. Palace insiders worked frantically to contain the fallout, but the lesson was clear. Private conversations could become public weapons. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal proved the monarchy's greatest fear. Some stains are impossible to wash clean. Prince Andrew's association with the convicted criminal became a nightmare that public relations couldn't fix. The scandal was so toxic that Andrew was stripped of all royal duties and essentially banished from public life. For the first time in modern history, a senior royal was completely sacrificed to protect the institution. The message was brutal but effective. No individual, no matter their birth, was bigger than the crown itself. Even as king, Charles couldn't escape controversy. Reports surfaced about his charitable foundation accepting large donations from foreign nationals in exchange for access and honorary awards. When investigations began, palace aides conveniently took the blame, but uncomfortable questions lingered about how close the future king had come to selling royal influence. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Every scandal followed the same formula: deny, deflect, sacrifice someone lower in the hierarchy, then wait for the public to move on. Each crisis taught the palace new techniques for burying truth, silencing witnesses, and rewriting history. By the time Charles's alleged secret son was born, they had perfected their methods. They knew exactly how to make someone disappear without a trace, but of all the scandals and cover-ups, none required more sophisticated deception than transforming Charles's mistress into Britain's beloved queen. How did they pull it off? The Camilla conspiracy. For decades, the public believed a carefully crafted story about Charles and Camilla's relationship. The palace wanted everyone to think their romance only resumed after both their marriages had naturally ended. The truth is far more sinister. What if Camilla never actually left Charles's life during his marriage to Diana? Behind closed doors, palace insiders reveal a different story entirely. The emotional affair never stopped, not even during those early fairy tale years. When Diana thought she had won her husband's heart, While the world watched Diana wave from palace balconies, Camilla was always there in the shadows. Phone calls late at night, secret meetings are arranged through trusted intermediaries, advice sessions that shape Charles's most important decisions. Diana wasn't fighting a memory of Charles's past love. She was battling a woman who refused to let go. Most people don't really understand just how much power Camilla had during Diana's toughest years. To the outside world, she was just seen as the other woman, a quiet scandal, someone to blame. But the truth is, she was so much more than that to Prince Charles. Camilla wasn't just his mistress. She was his closest friend, the person he leaned on when everything else was falling apart. She was the one he trusted most, someone who calmed him down, gave him advice, and stood by him through it all. While Diana felt alone and pushed out, Camilla was right there beside Charles, emotionally, mentally, even in the decisions he made. She didn't have an official title, but she had a kind of influence that went way beyond what most people saw. And whether anyone liked it or not, she was already deeply woven into the royal story, long before the world truly saw it. Behind closed doors, Diana felt completely outmaneuvered. Every attempt to build a genuine relationship with her husband was sabotaged by someone who had 20 years of history with him. Palace staff later revealed that Diana often felt isolated and manipulated by a system that protected Camilla while leaving her exposed to public scrutiny. After Diana died in 1997, the palace faced an impossible challenge. How do you transform the most hated woman in Britain into someone worthy of wearing Diana's crown? The answer was a masterpiece of public relations warfare. Step 1. Wait for public grief to soften. Step 2. Gradually present Camilla as a victim of unfair vilification. Step 3. Highlight her loyalty to Charles during his lowest moments. Step 4. Show her performing royal duties with quiet dignity. Behind closed doors, media specialists worked overtime to plant positive stories about Camilla in friendly outlets. Royal insiders began leaking tales of her kindness, her sense of humor, and her genuine love for Charles. Slowly, methodically, they rewrote her entire public image. The transformation took nearly 2 decades, but it worked. What makes Camilla's rise even more remarkable is how completely the palace erased the damage she caused. There was never any public accountability for the pain she inflicted on Diana. No acknowledgement of the emotional manipulation. No apology for the years of deception. Instead, she became Queen Consort, a title that seemed impossible when millions viewed her as the woman who destroyed the fairy tale. The palace machinery had achieved something unprecedented. They took their biggest liability and transformed her into their greatest asset. The woman who once represented everything wrong with the monarchy now stood beside the king as a symbol of enduring love. But here's what the palace couldn't completely erase: public memory. Despite years of careful rebranding, many people still remember the truth about how Camilla rose to power. They remember Diana's tears, her isolation, and her desperate attempts to save a marriage that was never really hers. The same palace machinery that transformed a mistress into a queen could certainly make a royal heir disappear forever. Even though the palace perfected the art of rewriting history for Camilla, they couldn't erase every trace of their darkest secret. What happens when that secret has a face? The Australian heir. In Australia, thousands of miles from Buckingham Palace, lives a man whose face could destroy the British monarchy. His name appears on no royal record. His birth certificate contains no mention of Charles or Camilla. Yet everyone who meets him says the same thing. He looks exactly like both of them. The resemblance is so striking that people have stopped him on the street. His nose mirrors Charles' distinctive profile. His eyes carry the same shape as Camilla's. His jawline could be carved from the same royal genetics that produced a king. Behind closed doors, investigators have pieced together a timeline that makes palace officials nervous. The man claims he was born in the mid-1960s, during a period when Charles was making mysterious solo trips abroad. These journeys weren't logged in official royal travel records, a detail that raises immediate red flags. The timing aligns perfectly with Charles's early relationship with Camilla, before his marriage to Diana was even arranged. If the allegations are true, this child would be their firstborn. making him the rightful heir to the British throne. Few people realize that royal succession laws prioritize birth order above everything else. An illegitimate firstborn son would technically outrank Prince William in the line of succession. The man's adoption story reveals even more disturbing details. His adoptive parents allegedly had deep connections to British intelligence services. They were required to sign extensive non-disclosure agreements that bound them to secrecy for life. What if the adoption wasn't random, but a carefully orchestrated operation to hide royal blood in plain sight? Intelligence agencies specialize in creating new identities and burying inconvenient truths. Placing a royal bastard with connected families would ensure both protection and silence. The boy's adoptive family never struggled financially, but not because they were wealthy. Quietly, and without much explanation, money arrived regularly. Year after year, they received financial support that seemed to have no clear source. It covered school fees, healthcare, housing, and almost everything. And the payments didn't stop when he turned 18. They continued for decades, steady and unquestioned. To outsiders, it might have looked like a generous act or a lucky break, but behind palace walls, whispers tell a different story. Insiders say this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. There had been other situations, other problems that the royal institution needed to quietly resolve. In those cases, too, families receive financial assistance, usually tied to some unspoken agreement. Stay quiet, keep your head down, don't ask questions. It was all part of a well-oiled system. If a potential scandal couldn't be erased, it was buried with money, secrecy, and silence. And over time, those quiet arrangements became the royal family's way of cleaning up anything that threatened the image of the crown. For decades, this man quietly gathered evidence of his royal heritage. He traced his adoption records back to their mysterious origins. He documented the timing of his birth against Charles's travel schedule. He collected photographs showing his undeniable resemblance to both alleged parents. Most importantly, he repeatedly requested DNA testing from the royal family to settle the matter once and for all. The palace's response was always the same: complete silence. Several years ago, his story went viral on social media. Photographs comparing his face to Charles and Camilla spread across the internet like wildfire. News outlets began investigating his claims. Public interest reached a fever pitch. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. Stories disappeared from major websites. Journalists who had been pursuing the investigation went silent. Social media posts vanished without explanation. The viral moment died as quickly as it had begun. Behind closed doors, royal PR specialists had deployed their most sophisticated damage control operation. Money changed hands. Legal threats were issued. The story was systematically erased from public consciousness. But here's what the palace couldn't control: the man himself still exists. He still carries the face that mirrors two of the most recognizable people on Earth. He still has the evidence he spent years collecting. The truth is, in the digital age, buried stories have a way of resurfacing. Social media makes it impossible to permanently silence inconvenient truths. The crown has survived wars, divorces, and scandals, but can it survive the revelation that everything about royal succession has been built on a lie? And if this Australian man's claims are proven true, how does this affect the royal succession? Constitutional crisis. The truth is, royal succession isn't just about tradition. It's governed by strict laws that have remained unchanged for centuries. Behind closed doors, constitutional lawyers have quietly examined what would happen if Charles's alleged firstborn son were proven legitimate. The answer is terrifying for the current royal family. Under British constitutional law, the eldest legitimate child inherits the throne, regardless of the circumstances surrounding their birth or upbringing. If this Australian man is indeed Charles's firstborn, he would technically have a stronger legal claim to the crown than Prince William. The implications are staggering. William has spent his entire life preparing to be king. Every lesson, every public engagement, every decision has been structured around his eventual coronation. His children have been raised as future heirs to the throne. For Prince William, the revelation of an elder half-brother would destroy the very foundation of his existence. He has lived his entire life with the certainty that he would one day rule Britain and the Commonwealth nations. Behind closed doors, Royal insiders say William's sense of duty and destiny runs deeper than most people realize. He has sacrificed personal freedoms, career choices, and private relationships to prepare for his role as king. The discovery that he might be second in line would shatter his carefully constructed identity. The psychological impact on William's children would be equally devastating. Prince George, currently third in line to the throne, would suddenly find himself pushed further down the succession ladder by an uncle he never knew existed. Prince Harry, however, might not be surprised at all. Having already experienced the devastating loss of his mother, endless media scrutiny, and feelings of being sidelined by the institution, another family deception would simply confirm his worst suspicions about the monarchy. What if Harry's decision to leave royal life was partly influenced by secrets he already suspected? His public statements about feeling trapped within the system take on new meaning when viewed through the lens of hidden family truths. Behind closed doors, those close to Harry suggest he has long believed the royal family prioritizes the institution over individual family members. The revelation of a secret brother would validate his claims about the monarchy's willingness to sacrifice anyone for the sake of protecting the crown. If Princess Diana were alive today, this revelation would represent the ultimate vindication of everything she tried to tell the world. Her famous interview, where she spoke about the 3 people in her marriage, would seem almost prophetic. The truth is, Diana always suspected there were deeper secrets within the royal family. Her struggles with mental health, her feelings of isolation, and her desperate attempts to find her place within the monarchy would all make perfect sense if she had discovered Charles was hiding a child. What makes this potential crisis different from past royal scandals is the impossibility of maintaining secrecy in the modern world. Social media platforms make it nearly impossible to permanently bury inconvenient truths. DNA testing technology continues advancing, making bloodline verification more accessible than ever before. The traditional tools of royal damage control, controlled media narratives, gentlemen's agreements, and financial settlements become useless when information spreads instantly across global networks. Behind closed doors, palace officials understand they're fighting a losing battle against technology and transparency. Public records that once could be quietly altered or destroyed are now digitally preserved forever. The most dangerous aspect of this potential revelation isn't the scandal itself. It's what it would reveal about the fundamental dishonesty underlying the entire monarchical system. Behind closed doors, constitutional experts warn that such a revelation could trigger the collapse of the monarchy across multiple Commonwealth nations. Countries that have maintained ties to the British Crown based on respect for tradition might finally sever those connections when the tradition itself is exposed as fraudulent. The question isn't whether these truths will eventually surface. It's whether the crown can survive when they do. Do you believe the royal family should publicly address the rumors of an illegitimate heir, or is silence still the safest path for protecting the crown's legacy? If DNA evidence proved this Australian man's claims true, should he have the right to challenge Prince William's position in the line of succession? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.